Good morning P1G, Mrs. Grace today is going to do some more baking and I'm going to be making some chocolate coconut bars. So here's my recipe book that I'm using. Recipe books are books that we use to help us have the instructions and the ingredients of what we want to make. So I decided to make these for my granny. I don't know if you remember, but Mrs. Grace was talking about her granny when it was March because that's when her birthday was, and she is 91. And I wanted to make her something nice for Easter. So let's have a look. I have measured out my ingredients already. So it needed some eggs and I've got it just in there. I have used a fork and I have whisked it up, lightly beaten it. I've got some brown sugar. I've got some flour, and Mrs. Grace can't eat normal flour, so she's making it gluten-free because there's going to be enough here that we can share it with my family as well. So I've got some gluten-free flour, some melted butter, some coconut, and some cocoa. So here's my bowl and the container I'm going to bake it in. I've got my oven on. Okay, my oven is on. We need the oven on to warm up, so we are putting our slice into a hot oven. It helps it cook better. Okay, so the method or the instructions for how to cook my slice says that I am to, so this is just here is what I'm reading. I'm going to combine my butter, my sugar, my coconut, my egg, my flours and my cocoa into a medium bowl and mix well. Okay, so all this stuff has to go in at the same time. So let's put the flour in first. That's the first lot of flour. So that is some self-raising flour. That's the flour that helps your cakes and slices rise a bit, so it makes them a bit softer and fluffier and things like that. This is some plain flour. Tap that in there. Here is my brown sugar. So as you can see, it's a bit like that kinetic sand brown sugar. So what it does is it packs up quite well into a container, but when you touch it, see that? It can just all fall apart. I love brown sugar, it's very delicious. Some cocoa. Cocoa is what's giving the chocolate flavour. And my coconut. And now what we call the wet ingredients. So that's the stuff that's going to help join all this dry ingredients together. So we've got my egg. Pour in the egg. And the butter. So because Mrs. Grace can also not eat normal dairy butter or dairy products, I have to have special ones. So I'm using that one in this as well. So it lets me eat it too and not get a sore tummy. Okay, so then we have to use the wooden spoon and we have to stir up all the dry ingredients. Benny, I'm just going to get Ben to come and hold the camera for me so I can use my other hand to hold the bowl because the bowl's a bit slippery on this surface. So here you go, Ben, can you just hold that for me while I mix up? Thanks, mate. And that's going to help me also just get the last of that butter off the plate too. Just make sure you keep it on the bowl for me so we can see it. So this is when we say combine, combine means that it all goes together. It's all going to get put together. So it takes a little bit of stirring up. Smells yummy. Coconut has a nice smell and so does the cocoa for the chocolate. Keep it on there for me while I do this. I need you to hold that for me, Ben, just until I get it into the container. So it's nearly there. We can see that it's starting to change its consistency, so it's starting to change the way it looks. It's turning into a bit more like what the Play-Doh looks like when we use the Play-Doh. So the wet ingredients, so the egg and the butter, is allowing the dry ingredients to mush together. Because the coconut's white, as I mix up, it's starting to go a bit the brown colour to match the cocoa. That lets me know that I've stirred it up enough. So I'm just going to use, I washed my hands, so don't worry, I can use my finger. Okay, so Ben, can you just put it over here so we can now see me put it into the bowl? Thanks, mate. So it's quite sticky. I've got to put it into my container. So I'm making a slice. So this container that it's in is called a slice tray. and it's a rectangle shape. We learned about rectangles, didn't we? A rectangle shape is one that's got two sides that are shorter than the two sides that are longer. So I'm pressing it down into the container. Because it's sticky, it's not quite pushing down easy enough here, so I'm just going to, I might just get a different spoon, so hold that on there for me, Ben, while I grab a different spoon. I'm going to use a metal spoon instead. I find that it's a bit easier to just push it along. Now once this is cooked, I'm going to ice it with chocolate icing. Now it's going to take about 20 minutes or so, I think, to cook. And then it has to cool down. You can't put icing on your hot slice. Your slice has to be cold. Otherwise, icing just melts away and all just tips off. It'll all just run off the sides, and we don't want that to happen. So, nearly there. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday. I hope you're getting a chance to do some baking at home. Okay, I think we've pushed that in. It's about even. It looks like I've got it. It's thick enough on this side. It's the same thickness as that side. I'll spread it out a bit more like that. Okay, so can you back up for me while I put it in the oven? So the oven is hot, so make sure you always have a grown-up to help you. I'm going to put it on the bottom part of my oven because it's not, the heat in an oven is always hotter at the top. Hot air rises, so we want it there so it doesn't cook too quickly. Can you go straight to the recipe for me, Ben? Just going to look here. It says, pull it back a bit so I can see it. There we go. Baking it for 20 minutes, okay? So 20 minutes until it's firm. So that means that it's cooked through. So let's have a look at our clock. I've got it now. Thanks, sweetheart. So looking at our clock, it is now 11:15. If it was 15 minutes, it would go to number 6. And then we need 5 minutes more because it would make it 20 minutes altogether. So that big black line after the number 6 would be 20 minutes, okay? So we're going to bake it and I'll show you what it looks like at the end.